years later, here I am. What? I barely remember that. That was
Which of them are you, the good guy or the bad guy?
I am the good guy, but I love the guy who played the bad guy. He's my favorite, actually.
So we're talking about this Qualcomm Tricorder X Prize.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's so incredibly exciting. I don't know about you people, but I'm sort of a nerd. I'm saying this to a room full of developers. But I really, things like this just blow my mind. I mean, watching that video of yours, it's such a great thing you're doing, and the profound effect it's going to have on healthcare is just so exciting.
It really is. We're living into a world where we're ultimately making science fiction reality, and it's
absolutely
without limitations.
Absolutely. You know, some people have already, by the way, well, some people already blur the line between sci-fi and reality. I mean, they actually blur the line between illusion and reality. I mean, if I'm out in public and I'm in a restaurant or I'm in a movie theater or something like that, it never fails. Somebody comes up to me and says, "Data!" and which is fine, but then it's sad because I have to burst their bubble and tell them, no, I am not a fictional character. I am actually a real person. I have been for many, many years.
So you make the transition from android to human.
Exactly. You know, I do these conventions, you know, sci-fi conventions or Star Trek conventions. There's actually going to be a huge one. The biggest of all is going to be here in San Diego in a couple of weeks, Comic-Con. And invariably, at these conventions, somebody comes up to me and they say, "Sir, may I ask you a question?" And I say, "Of course." And they say, "When you beam out, are your molecules actually dispersing, or is that some kind of special effect?" Well, I usually say, it's a special effect. But in truth, what I'd like to do at that moment is beam out. And I trust that in the near future that's going to be possible. In fact, I bet there's going to be an X Prize on that.
You know, with the amount of traveling I know you do and Paul does and I do, right now what I want is either a transporter X Prize or a cloning X Prize.
Well, totally. Isn't it our dream, really, to be able to go from one place to another as quickly as possible?
And frankly, you know, we're getting our bits there, and our atoms hopefully will follow in not too distant future. But you know, it's constant that it's the science fiction world. I know that inspired me in my childhood, and it's like, you know, how do I make space travel happen? How do we make all of these things happen?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, science fiction has always played a crucial role in innovation. I mean, when Jules Verne wrote Trip to the Moon in 1865, I mean, nobody at that time was imagining that there would be a rocket that went to the moon. And in fact, nobody was imagining there'd be a rocket at that time. But indeed, it happened. Technology grabbed a hold of that idea and took us to the moon and then brought us back safely. And you know what? Star Trek has inspired a whole new generation of inventors. I mean, you know, I don't know if you can remember on the original series when Lieutenant Uhura was sitting at her station, she had that Bluetooth hanging out of her ear.
That giant.
Exactly.
They were so wrong how big it was going to be.
Exactly. That was the 60s, though. Not the 1860s, but the 1960s. And Captain Kirk, you remember Captain Kirk used to have the flip phone that he pulled out of his back pocket and spot, to beam up. I mean, that was the phone, the precursor of the phone. And as we remember, on Star Trek The Next Generation, Captain Picard, in his ready room, always had on his desk what we called the pad, that he would tap into and speak to people and get information from the very first tablet.
I bet you Paul has all the engineers watching the old episodes saying, "How do we make that one? How do we make that one?"
Well, I hope so, Paul, actually. That'd be great.
But, you know, and I do believe we're on the verge of the medical tricorder, and I, for one, you know, anyone who's gone to the emergency room and have to wait for hours, I bet you all wish you had one too, but I do.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, that's right. It's like, it's there. It's there to be invented. I mean, with science fiction, you know, if someone can think it, if someone can imagine it, someone can build it, and they will.
And this, at the end of the day, is a product of Gene Roddenberry's genius. I mean, it really is extraordinary what he did from his technology vision and his political vision and all. I mean, I never had a chance to meet the man. I know you did.
I did. He was an amazing guy. I'm so grateful to have known him. But, you know, his idea of science fiction wasn't just entertainment. He wanted to inspire viewers and to make them think. Actually, can I tell you a brief moment about the first time I met you?
Please, I'd love to.
Yeah. Well, I had gotten cast in the role of Data, and I went to see Gene. They took me to his office, and he asked me the question, do you mind changing your appearance for this role? And I was naive at the time. I thought, I'll wear a couple of pairs of ears or something, I don't know. And he said, no, would you mind changing the color of your skin, your hue? And I thought, wow, that'd be interesting. So we did 35 different makeup tests, everything from battleship gray to bubblegum pink. They were all strung together on a reel, and we took them into Gene's screening room, and we ran them for him. As soon as it came up, the first one that came up, I was gold. Gene said, okay, that's fine, and he was out of the room. And I thought, that's it? I went through all those makeup tests, and he picks the first one? Well, thank God it wasn't the bubblegum pink, right?
So, you're actually gold on the episode?
Yeah, I am gold.
I guess my TV isn't very good.
No, well, you know what? Definitely, I was either white or green, depending on the color of the quality of your television set. Which was I on yours?
You're sort of grayish.
Yeah, that was a terrible television. I asked Gene after that because it was a real pain getting into that stuff. I said, Gene, don't you think that in the future, this far in the future, they'd be able, on an Android, to get the color of the skin right? And his response was, what makes you think what you have isn't better than skin? I went, well, that's Gene Roddenberry. He was an amazing guy. I remember I was at his memorial service shortly after he passed away, and Ray Bradbury, great Ray Bradbury, was one of the speakers.
We just lost recently.
We just lost him too, and he said a wonderful thing. He told a very brief story about a young fella coming up to him the day before and saying to him, oh my God, Mr. Roddenberry, you're still alive. I thought you were dead. And Bradbury said, no, I'm still alive. And indeed he was. And indeed Ray Bradbury is. And Isaac Asimov and Jules Verne and Arthur C. Clarke and all of these great writers who not only will live forever because of their writing, but they're going to live forever because of the innovations that have sprung from their writing.
Yeah. I know I've had the pleasure and honor to get to know Gene's son, Rod Roddenberry, who heads Roddenberry Foundation, who's one of our underwriters of the X Prize Foundation.
Yeah, Rod's a great guy. I've known him since he was a boy. I've known him since I was a boy. Looking at that film.
Well, I mean, all of us in our boyhood selves are huge fans of you and Gene's work, and I'm sure many of people are here, but one of your biggest fans is sitting right here in the front row, and I'd love to welcome back up on the stage, Paul Jacobs.
I think most people don't really know the role that Brent has in mobile internet. He was there really at one of the fundamental milestones. We launched a phone in San Francisco at a CTIA show in 1997. I think we might have a picture of.
Yeah, that was the Q phone, right?
Yeah, that was the Q phone.
Q phone.
It ran internet services on it.
Oh yeah, I remember it well. As a matter of fact, I still have my Q phone.
Does it work?
It works beautifully. You know, what I liked about the Q phone is it was man-sized.
That's right.
It's about that big, you know. And the only problem with it is I had to create a pocket in my pants that was around like that, so I could carry it there.
The funny thing is people were amazed that we could get the thing that small. Everybody said, "Oh, CDMA is so complicated. You're going to have to drive around in a van to make this work." We bring that thing out, and at the time there was the StarTAC that.
Oh yeah, StarTAC.
There was only an analog phone. We brought this digital phone out.
That's right.
Those guys were so pissed off. I think they might have sued us.
I still have my stump tattoo.
Anyway, so, I mean, things, you know,
Yeah,
it's
come along.
now you got a thing like the pad, just like we were talking about. But a really funny story that people might also not know was we actually had dinner, I don't know, a few weeks before the show, just to say hello, get to know each other. And your agent was there, and we were talking about Qualcomm. And back then, Qualcomm's stock price was quite low.
Yes.
It wasn't really very valuable.
Right.
And I don't know what it was that we said, but your agent got so excited, he went around and told everybody, buy Qualcomm. And in 1999, the stock went up 25 times. And this guy became like, what, the stock picker of Hollywood.
Well, that man is Warren Buffett today.
Well, it's good to see that we could help him get started.
Well, I bought Qualcomm then too, so yeah, I'm one of the richer people on the face of the earth now.
Well, you're in New York, we can just hang out together.
Exactly.
With Peter, too.
With Peter, please. The Brent Spiner X Prize. I can tell you now.
I like it. And I was just wondering, you know, we come to this point in time, and now the whole class of phones is named after you, Android. How do you feel about that?
You know, I'll tell you exactly how I feel about it. I'm shocked that none of these companies has come to me to be a spokesman for their phone. I mean, it seems like a slam dunk, doesn't it?
What do you guys think? Well, anyways, I'm happy to have you here again. It's great to see you again.
Great to see you too.
It's very fun, and we'll see what our next meeting. There's going to be some crazy stuff, like a tricorder.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, well, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you, Peter. Good to see you.